where there was no crime. It was made up, fabricated stuff. They didn't want to bring the case. They could have brought the case 7 years ago. It's only when you run for office they bring cases. But they would have done that 7 years ago thing, not in the middle of my presidential campaign, where we're beating Biden, by the way, by a lot. Did you see? And by the way, right after the announcement of this, more campaign funds were given to this campaign than any campaign, they think, in history. Almost $400 million. 400!
Out of the job we did.
You have rallied people. I had people in my focus group the other night that said, I have not voted for Trump before. I have not been a Trump fan before. But I have donated to Trump because he has inspired me. I have donated to him, and I am voting for him now, and I have not before, but he has inspired me.
Actually, it's been a beautiful thing to watch. Thank you.
Mr. President, it's been an honor speaking with you. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. So what you just saw there was President Trump announcing an astronomical fundraising haul of $400 million. Okay, that's almost $500 million. And what's so hilarious about this, guys, it's just 3 or 4 months ago, the mainstream liberal media, they were kiki and ha-haing about Trump's low cash, right? They were talking about Trump is broke, right? But fast forward, just 3-4 months later, Trump has raised $400 million, largely due to the backfire that seems to have occurred when Democrats decided to persecute him politically and to convict him in the New York hush money trial. So it seems like things are on the up and up for Trump. And like I told you guys before, you're going to have to wait about a week or two, maybe 3 weeks to really see the results of that conviction and whether or not it helps or hurts Trump. And now the more data that we're getting, it seems to be leaning on the side of helping Trump, definitely when it comes to fundraising. Okay. And one of the reasons why is because everybody, literally everybody, can see that this trial was politically motivated. I mean, even people like Dr. Phil, who's been pretty based lately, I have to admit, he has an expertise in analyzing these trials, and that's why he took a special interest in what was going on with Trump. He can see that this is obviously a political persecution. In fact, he went on his show the other day to basically beg Biden and Democrats to stop going after their political opponents because he knows that that can lead this country to a banana republic. And he just did a recent interview with Trump where he basically broke down how the New York trial was swung in favor of the prosecution. It was basically so obvious that Dr. Phil even acknowledges that, hey, you know, I got a lot of people that didn't support you before, but they now support you because of what you're going through and what is happening. Okay, so I want to talk about it, but before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Aura. Have you done an internet search of you or your loved ones lately? If not, you should try it. At least for me, it is pretty scary stuff to see all of your information out there on the internet just for anybody to find. And this is because data brokers are selling your information to anybody, including spammers and scammers and fraudsters who are looking to target people like you. This is why I love using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps me reduce how much spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who can use this information in order to get access to my social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive private information. And I know you guys have heard about this bombshell story from AT&T that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They highly recommend that those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. I'm happy to tell you that Aura does all this for me. And best of all, I do not have to download several different apps just because a company could not keep my data secure. If my data was compromised by the AT&T breach, I would not worry at all because Aura is always on. They are always working hard to make sure that your data is protected and secure. I value my privacy and I value yours. This is why you can go to aura.com/BCP to start your free 2-week trial. Also linked below in the description.
I called for President Biden to stop all of this now. And of course, a lot of people said, oh, he can't stop it. It's a state case. Well, okay, that's an explanation for stupid people. But for people that understand how this works behind the scenes and all, I say the same thing. They need to stop this. They need to stop pursuing you. Since you started your campaign in 2015 to run for office, there have been so many attempts to get you off the board even before you started your campaign. Then once you were in office, 2 impeachment opportunities. They changed the rules to try to make it high crimes and misdemeanors if there were business conflicts, and in this case,
Never ends.
it seems to be never ending. One of the big myths is that the burden of proof lies with the prosecution. That is the law. But I can tell you, after years and years and years of trial, the truth is that the jury sits there and says, I'm looking at all this, and if we're not down here for the reason they say we're down here, somebody needs to give me an alternative explanation of why we are down here. So if we're not down here because of what the prosecutors are telling us, then what's the alternative story? What's the alternative explanation? And when you get muzzled in the way that this judge muzzled this case, they're sitting there saying, what's the rest of the story? You're not allowed to testify because you're in jeopardy if you do. They let all of this other stuff in that should never get into the jury box. And so, the scales get tipped, and it gets very, very difficult to get even one juror because there's not an alternative story that if you could tell without being in peril, if you can tell without being intimidated, it would be a very different situation. The burden legally is on the prosecution, but logically
You're
with
guilty
the jury,
until proven innocent.
that's
basically
exactly
what
the
happened.
truth.
I can tell you, that's the truth with me.
That's how it
what
plays
happened.
out. And I did a focus group about this when I did a show on this on Merritt Street, and I had 250 people in, did a focus group, and I said, and overwhelmingly the people were in your favor. But I found those that had questions, and I said, what is your question? They said, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
I didn't hear the other part of it.
Yeah, so that is Dr. Phil being based and basically explaining what the liberal media says is impossible, except when they fearmonger about Trump doing it to Democrats, because that's the new Democrat fear-mongering tactic, to say, well, Trump is going to seek revenge, okay? While at the same time saying, well, it's not really possible for the president to weaponize the DOJ and to go after their political opponents, but Trump is going to do that, though, right? It's totally possible for Trump to do it, but it's not possible for Biden to do it. And you had Attorney General Eric Holder, former Attorney General, go on CNN and explain exactly how the president can, in fact, do that. But for whatever reason, the mainstream liberal media can't connect this when it comes to the possibility that Biden is doing exactly what this guy is explaining is totally possible for the president to do.
Can you just describe a little bit in terms of the role of and how it would transform if an attorney general, we're not looking at things purely from the facts, purely from the evidentiary burden and how to meet it, but instead taking directives on who to prosecute from the president of the United States?
Sure. If the president told a compliant attorney general, I don't like what this congressman said about me or did to me over the course of the last 2-3 years, whatever, open an investigation on that person. That attorney general could tell a compliant United States attorney to do just that. Talk to a compliant FBI director who could be replaced by the president, to open an investigation, and then to just look through that person's life and look for anything that you possibly can find. Who's to say what you find in any person's life that might run afoul of the law, and even beyond that, the mere fact of an investigation of a person who is a public figure can be reputation ruining, can be politically damaging, not even if you find anything, just the fact that the investigation itself exists. And if you've got the full weight of the Justice Department, the full weight of the presidency, the full weight of the FBI focusing on somebody like that, that can be extremely damaging to not only that person individually, but to our democracy writ large.
Yeah, so what you have there is Eric Holder literally explaining how the president can direct the attorney general to go after their political opponents, right? Now, again, when they're speculating about what Trump can do, oh, it's entirely possible, okay? But when Republicans say, hey, this is what Biden is currently doing to Trump, oh, wait, that is a conspiracy theory, okay? Even though these persecutions against Trump are obviously political in nature, okay? They are literally trying to go after one man because he's running for president, because they don't like him. He's a threat to their power, their democracy, TM, right? This is what he's a threat to. So therefore, yeah, I mean, to me, in my opinion, I believe that this stuff is political. Even Dr. Phil can see it, okay? Even Dr. Phil can see it, who doesn't come off as a partisan person, okay? He comes off as somebody that's pretty impartial, and he's just calling it like he sees it, okay? I don't think he agrees with Trump on everything, but I think a lot of people are rallying around Trump because of what is happening to him. And again, you're starting to see the polls shift in that direction. Now, again, the mainstream media are trying to spin it. They're coping and trying to say, oh, well, Trump is losing support. No. Okay, because last time I checked in with you guys on Trump's chances of winning, according to Decision Desk, I mean, their job, their data scientists, they analyze this stuff, and Trump was at a 56% chance, okay? But now Trump is at a 59% chance, almost a 60% chance of winning the 2024 election, and we're about a week out since that verdict was issued, okay? So what you're saying now is, hey, as time continues to move forward, a lot of people don't really seem to be holding the conviction against Trump because, again, that was the one political persecution that nobody really cared about too much. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Our election partners at Decision Desk HQ now forecasting he has a 59% chance of defeating President Biden in the elections. Let's take a closer look before we talk to Scott Tranter from DDHQ at our big board here right now. We only have 6 swing states up here in yellow. Previously we had 7, but North Carolina really looks like it's leaning to the red side. So let's talk about a path to victory for the former president. I think it's obvious it would run through Georgia there with 16 electoral votes, Arizona as well, where he'll be today, and then maybe Nevada. So if we look at that, you saw the numbers changing at the side. It gets Trump to the threshold. 270 needed to win. He'd be at 268 with 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin, 15 in Minnesota, or in Michigan, I should say, and 19 in Pennsylvania. The big 3 would still be on the board. Trump wins one of those 3 in this scenario. He's above 270.
Now, again, this is important because, like I try to tell you guys all the time, Trump has to really focus on these 3 states, okay? Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. He has to win at least one of those states, okay? If he wins at least one of those states and you have North Carolina holds up, Georgia holds up, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, which I'm pretty sure they all will, I mean, at this point, that's his path to victory, right? That is his path to victory. I mean, he could even flip a state like Virginia. That is going to be a fascinating race because the polls are very, very, very tight in Virginia, and things have been swinging in Trump's favor in Virginia. So, again, where Trump has to be thinking in regards to moving forward, it has to be these 3 states. And if you look at Trump's reported VP finalist list, I believe that he probably is thinking about these Rust Belt states in regards to his VP pick. Take a look.
Trump's vice presidential pick also reportedly heating up right now. The National Desk's Angela Brown joins us right now. As we understand it, Angela, the vetting process already begun.
Yeah, we've been going through a number of reports this morning, Jan, saying the former president has started the vetting process for a number of contenders. Of course, that will include an extensive background check. Now, here are the candidates that could be on the short list. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Senator Mark Rubio, Senator J.D. Vance, Senator Tim Scott, U.S. Representative Elise Stefanik, and U.S. Representative Byron Donaldson. Former HUD Secretary as well, Dr. Ben Carson. Now, right before the primary, the New Hampshire primary, you may remember this, the former president was asked on Fox News about his VP pick, and here's what he said.
If you are the nominee, which I know you expect to be, who would be in the running for vice president?
Well, I can't tell you that, really. I mean, I know who it's going to be.
Give us a hint.
We'll do another show sometime.
Well, NBC News is reporting that VP contenders recently received some sort of vetting materials, with 4 men now leading the pack. Senators Rubio, Senator Vance, and Senator Scott, along with Governor Burgum.
Yeah, so if I had to bet, which I don't bet, I don't gamble, actually. I actually hate gambling, okay? That's one of, like, my pet peeves. I really do not like gambling, okay? So I don't gamble, but if I was a gambler, right, if I was betting, I would probably go with J.D. Vance or Doug Burgum, right? Because they're basically from that area-ish, okay? And I think that they can really help Trump out with those Rust Belt states. And I think that's probably the direction that he's going to go. And I don't blame him for going in that direction because that's where he's the weakest, okay? This is an observation, a fascinating observation that, has been made before, is that the more diverse the swing state, the better Trump is doing, right? And the more white the swing state, that's where Trump had some work to do, okay? So, again, with that in mind, he should have that in mind. I think that's probably the direction he's going to go in regards to the VP pick. And this is what the election is going to come down to. If Trump can just grab one of these states, these Rust Belt states, he's good to go, okay? And the good news is that two of these states, Wisconsin and Michigan, are states that have a large anti-Biden movement due to the conflict between Israel and Gaza, okay? So that conflict probably not going to be over anytime soon. Probably will definitely still be happening before the election. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Netanyahu actually turns up the conflict around the election, because I think that, those people, the power that be, they definitely want Biden up out of there, okay, for various reasons. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a large anti-Biden, like, non-committed vote, or, people just don't vote at all. I'm not saying these people will vote for Trump. Maybe some of them will. Maybe some of them won't. But I'm just saying that those are the states where there's likely to be a significant amount of voters that are going to sit out due to being against Biden's role when it comes to Israel and Gaza. And in those states, again, the margins are going to be razor thin, so that can determine the outcome of the election.
All right, from that point, let's talk to Scott about it. Scott Tranter joins us right now. He's the Director of Data Science at Decision Desk HQ. That's a cool title, Director of Data Science. I like that. Good to see you, my friend. So that's the scenario, I think, probably that's most likely to get Trump to the threshold. Talk to us about where you're getting these odds. 59%. It's gone up here since the conviction, if anything. It was in the mid-50s the other day.
Yeah, it went up a few points since the last week. And so we're getting it from a whole different bunch of data points: past historical results, current voter registration, current fundraising numbers, and brand new polling. And that's kind of what really moved it over the last week. Is Donald Trump has had some good national polls that have moved the generic ballot more towards the Republican side. So that not only helps Donald Trump's odds in winning the presidency, it helps the Republicans in the Senate and the House. Now, it's June. We got a long ways to go, and I think that's going to go back and forth. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about this in October. It could be low 50% for Biden by then. This is how close the race is and how much there is movement back and forth and how much campaigning to go.
So those three that
I highly doubt it. And the reason why I highly doubt it is because I don't think that there's anything that Biden can do to change people's perception of the economy, okay? I think when it comes to the border, the damage is done. I don't think these last-minute executive orders where he pretends like he's trying to get tough on the border are going to help anything, especially considering how he just lied to the American people about what he could do as president of the United States. Isn't it funny how that works? Biden wants Democrat voters and moderates to reward him for lying, right? Because that's what he did. When he came out and said, oh, well, I can't do anything as president. We have to have legislation for me to act on this issue, which is not true, even though we do need legislation to actually really put handcuffs on the president in regards to allowing them to abuse the laws on the books to have this type of unfettered illegal immigration. But outside of that, Biden could have done more. He just chose not to. And he lied to the American people about it, despite the fact that the border crisis was out of control. And now all of a sudden he's coming out and saying, oh, well, yeah, I can do something. So he lied, right? And he basically let the problem continue to get worse for 5 to 6 months straight before deciding to do something because he's trying to win an election. Again, I hope people aren't stupid enough to fall for that, right? I hope people don't reward Biden for making a political move that he made because, again, of politics, he's trying to get reelected, something that he actually should have done a long time ago, but he just didn't do it because, well, he believes in open borders, right? His handlers actually believe in open borders, right? I'm not sure if Biden believes in open borders, but his handlers most certainly do, okay? So, again, I don't think there's anything Biden can really do to really change the perception when it comes to the top two issues that he's dealing with, which is the economy and immigration. And then when it comes to the whole abortion thing, well, you know, hey, Democrats are going to lie about that. So I'm just hoping that people aren't stupid enough to fall for those lies either. So we'll see. So that being said, President Trump's chances of winning actually went up since the conviction. So it seems like it's backfired. And again, this is just a week out. Okay. So again, if it was going to hurt Trump significantly, it would actually hurt him the most now. And we're already saying that it's not really hurting him that much. It actually might have helped him if you consider, again, the campaign fundraising and the fact that the polls haven't really budged. If anything, they're kind of leaning in his favor. I can imagine 2 to 3 weeks from now, maybe even after that debate that he has with Biden, who, again, seems to be just, you know, completely out of it. If Biden has a bad performance and Trump shows up and has a great performance, again, you can really see Trump's lead extend more than it is right now. But again, there's still a whole lot more time between now and the election. I'm just saying that it seems like the momentum is in Trump's favor. The amount of money that he's raised in the past week, month has been astronomical, and that's most certainly going to help. And I just found it to be hilarious because, again, 3 or 4 months ago, Democrats were kiki and ha-ha about how much money Trump had and the fact that he had to use all his money on these political trials. But now that these political trials are kind of, you know, on the back burner, a lot of that money can be used for campaigning, okay? And he's armed with a war chest that is, you know, astronomical, right? And, I just think that conviction, we can look back on it in history and say, yeah, that was the day when President Trump got reelected. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.